Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime Symbol. And first of all, before I begin this new series, I just want to thank Brandon McQueen for the idea. So here you go, a brand new series. What if Naruto gained a new bloodline from Minato and Kushina's chakra? Before we begin, I have not cancelled What If Naruto had Yuhaba and the Soul King ability. It will be next on this channel, so I've not cancelled that. However, I have cancelled What If Naruto had the Omega level mutant ability. I can see that many of you are not taking favorable to that, so this will be replacing that. Once again, thank you for the idea and I hope you enjoy. So, if you haven't checked out the other channels, their link will be down in the description, so go ahead, check them out and enjoy. So without further ado or wasting any more time, how about we jump right into this brand new episode? Let us begin now guys. One small event that will change everything. One small event that will revolutionize the ninja world for the better or for the worse was currently taking place. Minato Namikaze, beloved Hokage of the Hidden Leaf Village, was currently sealing both his and his wife chakra into the seal. This was supposed to be a standard procedure, but this seal was very mysterious. Despite knowing many about it, there was still many unknowns. After all, it dealt with death itself. The combination of the both of their chakra, it simply merged. It was accident. Before it was fully sent into the young boy, their son, their chakra merged together. It awakened something. It triggered something. The combination of the Uzumaki clan, a clan that was blessed with longevity, and several other quirks that made them the ultimate ninjas. Given how ruthless they were, the other nations had to team up to wipe them out. Knowing that the threat that they posed despite not being a village, just a clan. And the Namikaze clan, not known by many, small and few. However, the clan possessed extraordinary individuals that always seem to possess a great aspect of speed about themselves. They hail from the hidden mountains from a very long time ago, but during the warring era, they spread, they mix. And one such member has landed within Konoha, which was Minato Namikaze. And now, something triggered inside of his blood, his chakra. The blood being his son, along with his wife, awakened something that was the first of its kind. A bloodline that has never been seen before. A bloodline that will not only rival the great big three, but surpass them entirely. And it was given to this young boy, Naruto Uzumaki. Time skip. A few years later, Naruto Uzumaki was going to die. Yes, plain and simple, he was going to die. There was nothing that could stop his death. A massive Fuma shuriken was hurled towards him. Crying out was his sensei, a man known as Iruka Mino. Behind Naruto was a massive scroll, known as the Sacred Scroll of Sealing. He had stolen it, coerced to do so by one of his other senseis, a man known as Mizuki, who turned around and tricked him, used him for his own nefarious purposes. After telling him that the reason why he's been so hated for his entire life was because of the nine-tailed fox, it truly triggered the boy. However, Aruka Words. His words brought this inspiring feeling that made the boy feel like he had a purpose once again, like he wasn't a monster. However, Haruka was defeated by Mizuki. Naruto came out angry to do something about it, as he turned his gaze towards Mizuki, but it was a fake. The real Mizuki had took to the trees. To get around the boy, he heard Haruka screaming out to him to get away, to run. But it was too late. Mizuki with a smirk on his face, hoping to see the boy downfall right in front of his eyes. Naruto saw his life. It flashed in front of his eyes. His life has been a miserable one. Yes, it has. However, despite that, he was always smiling, always going on, always putting the better foot forward, trying to stay away from the darkness. The villagers never treated him like an equal. They treated him like he was a bottom feeder, while none of them went to the extreme of harming him. They pretended like he didn't even exist, which made him lash out by pulling pranks and doing things to get attention. But when they look at him, all they looked at him was like he was a monster. Those hateful eyes that hurt his very soul. And now, all of that was going to come to an end. A small part of him was actually accepting this, as he was going to take his final breath. However, the part of him that refused to give up, that refused to cower, that refused to die, that part of him that wanted to be the greatest Hokage, it triggered something. He felt it course through his veins. He felt it through his brain, through his very soul. It was all over. Time seemed to slow down even more than before, as it came to a crawl, as Naruto's eyes changed. His blue, serene eyes changed right in front of them. In that moment, Naruto felt it, a surge, a pull, as he focused on the spot. The shuriken whipped past where Naruto was. Shocked Mizuki was, as Naruto was now behind him. The man turned only for Naruto to jump and deliver a brutal uppercut with all the strength that he could muster. Naruto wasn't done though, as he brought his hand together. Multi-Shadow Clone Jutsu, he said. He was surrounded. As Mizuki landed, he was surrounded on all angles. Shocked as he looked around. Get him, said Naruto. They all took off. The only technique that he learned from the scroll now being put into action. They beat the living crap out of him, dominating and beating him to a pulp. The man was left twitching on the ground. That is when Naruto picked up a kunai and stepped forward to kill Mizuki. Yes, he was going to end his life, which was odd, given the kind of person Naruto was. Cold-blooded murder was not a part of his personality. Haruka dragged himself over despite the pain and bleeding, as he used his hand to grab the back of Naruto's shirt, having enough time now that Naruto's life was not in jeopardy. Stop, he said. Naruto paused as he looked towards the man. It's over. You don't have to do this. Naruto stepped back, a quizzical look on his face. Haruka was shocked though, as he saw Naruto's eyes. The pupil that was blue had turned completely red like blood. Inside of the pupil was a special pattern. Yes, there was a ball inside of his eyes. In the dead center of the pupil that looked like a miniature sun. Surrounding that sun was 3 blue orbs in a triangle formation. Haruka has never seen anything like this before. At first he thought it was a fox, but it didn't seem to be. He didn't feel that overwhelming force at all. But this was something that he's never seen before. Are you alright? Haruka asked Naruto. Yes, I'm fine, said Naruto. Haruka looked towards the boy with a bit of concern though. However, despite that he had something for him, he told Naruto to close his eyes as he removed the goggles from his forehead and placed his own headband. Why? Said Naruto. Look at what you just did. Iruka said. Not only is that technique a forbidden technique, but you pull it off precisely. So despite the fender bender that took place tonight, you, Naruto Uzumaki, are now a shinobi of the Hidden Leaf. Iruka said proudly. Naruto was overwhelmed with emotions. Surprisingly though, he handled them rather well. As he hugged Iruka, he hugged him, Iruka hugging the boy back. That was a scene that the envoys arrived to see, as the medical envoys quickly rushed to Iruka's side to aid him, as Naruto stood there. He was brought to the office. When Hiruzen got a look at Naruto, he scampered to the boy rather quickly. Naruto, what is this? He said, asking the question because he himself was confused and concerned. I'm not sure what are you talking about, said Naruto. Hiruzen brought the boy a small mirror. As Naruto looked at it, what's wrong with my eyes? Naruto said. That is what I was asking you. I had no idea I had these until you said something about it, said Naruto. Now I understand why Iruka looked so concerned. I thought it was because of what I found out about the Nine Tails. Hiruzen looked rather surprised. How do you... Mizuki told me that I was a beast that destroyed the village all those years ago. Naruto, before you say anything else, Mizuki's a liar. Sit down, he said. There's a lot that I need to tell you. Time skip. The next morning, Naruto opened his eyes. His eyes had not reverted back to normal. They seemed to be permanently stuck like this. However, they were not affecting him in the slightest. If anything, everything seemed so much more clear and understanding. Time skip. Hiruzen Sarutobi was talking to a specialist, a man known as Yamamoto. I can't quite explain it, Yamamoto said. I myself have never witnessed something like this, and you having the most knowledge out of all of us shows us that this is not a bloodline that we've ever come across before. Perhaps it is something that the boy's parents' genetics possess, but has never truly been activated in any of them. But that is not all. I found 2 other chakra residues coursing through his system. What do you mean? Hiruzen said. It's like someone tried to place him under a genjutsu, but the amount of chakra that is needed for something like that is far less than what I found. The residue chakra seemed to have merged with his own, lashing onto his own chakra like some kind of source to be consumed. It is truly hard to explain because I've never seen anything like this before. Both men snapped their head to the window as Naruto was simply standing there, having moved from the previous spot that he was standing at in the room. They stepped towards it. As Naruto opened the window, he looked at the both of them. Naizugan, he said. What is that? Hiruzen said. The name of this new genetical alteration, said Naruto. Confusion immediately passed Hiruzen's eyes. It was a word that Naruto used. Naruto wasn't stupid, but he wasn't the smartest in the bunch. Not to mention, ever since this new bloodline, his personality seemed to be so different. Hiruzen wondered if it had anything to do with the chakra that was found in his system. Chakra was a very mysterious energy. There were things that it could do could amaze you. Certain personalities and traits tend to follow chakra binding into its very code, as Naruto seemed extremely less hyperactive. He went back to the topic though. Why did you say that word? He said. I read the doctor's lips, said Naruto. I heard what he said about the never seen before. So I think I should be the one to name it. Naizugan, he said. Time skip. For now, Hiruzen was going to keep this under wraps. There was no need to indoctrinate Naruto into anything as of yet, After all, they were not even sure what abilities this new bloodline carries. Therefore, he told Naruto to report back to him if anything were to show itself. Absolutely anything, it doesn't matter how small that thing could be. With that, Naruto headed towards the academy. He felt different, much more calm. But at the same time, he could feel this rage under the calm, which was rather strange. Ever since he awakened these eyes, his whole personality seemed to be shifted. It was a chakra that was found in his system, unaware to him. The chakra of his parents. The awakening of the Nizugan altered his entire genetic code. The eyes did not only came with the quirks that they had, but the genetic code that came directly from his parents seemed to alter his whole personality. His father was a cool, calculated person that seemed to be dwarfing most of his hyperactive abilities and quirks. His mother was a hothead that is easy to anger, which was the anger bubbling under the surface for little reasons that upsetted him. However, they merged together, creating a whole new outlook for the boy. As he walked to the academy, hands in his pockets, his headband resting on his forehead. Upon getting in, he was early as he sat down. He waited there as he closed his eyes, not really doing anything, just relaxing, meditating, something that Naruto has never done before, as it was calming him, relaxing him. His meditation was broken though, by none other than Kiba Inuzaka, with his puppy Akamaru on top of his head. Naruto? What the hell are you doing here? You know that this class is just for graduates, right? Naruto opened his eyes. Kiba was rather surprised. If you haven't noticed, there's a headband on my forehead, said Naruto. Well, what the hell happened to your eyes? Kiba said. Why do they look so funny? I'm not sure, said Naruto, as he seemed to be done talking, but Kiba wasn't done asking questions, followed by Shikamaru as well. Him not usually being the one to conduct conversation starting. However, he was curious as well. Choji, even Shino, but Naruto gave them the same answer. He was not sure. Shikamaru noticed that Naruto was different. It was like dealing with a completely different person. Him being smart enough to notice that Naruto's attitude and personality seemed to have completely changed, following with the change of his eyes. They have to have something to do with it, right? Iruka entered the class as he saw Naruto. A newfound respect between the two more than even before. He started to wish all of them luck on their journeys. Before announcing the team, Naruto was placed on Team 7 with Sakura Haruno and Sasuke Uchiha. Sakura cheered in joy. Sasuke was cool as he always was, and Naruto did not react that much. However, the name Kakashi Hatake strangely sounded so familiar, despite never meeting the man before. They watched as every other sensei came to get their team, leaving the three of them alone in the class. Sakura got up. Something has been bugging her. Why was Naruto not bugging her? Yes, she stepped towards him as Naruto's eyes was closed, his hands resting on the decks in front of him. Hey, she called out to him as he opened one of his eyes. Huh? Why do your eyes look so weird? She said, trying to understand the change. Sasuke was curious, but he pretended like he did not care. I'm not sure, said Naruto. Is there something that you need? Sakura blinked. Did he really just say that to her? She wondered. Why was Naruto acting so strange? He closed his eyes once again like she wasn't even there, feeling rather insulted, as she knew that he was just trying to act different just because they were ninjas now. As she sat down, fuming. As the minutes ticked by, it turned into hours as he finally appeared. The man with gravity-defying silver hair. His first impression was that he hated them all, as he told them to meet him on the roof. Upon getting there, he asked for an introduction. Sakura was all over Sasuke. Her words, her dreams, her likes, everything. Sasuke had one goal, which he would make a reality, hunting and killing his brother. As for Naruto, upon introducing himself, he liked ramen. He didn't say much more than that. Upon reaching his dreams and goals, he said he did not know. Now that caught the attention of the other two. For as long as they've known him, Naruto always shouted that he was going to be Hokage one day. So that was rather confusing. They did not question it though, as Kakashi told them to meet him tomorrow. The next day, as Naruto headed towards Training Ground 7, hands located within his pockets. Everything was different now. Everything seemed much more calm. The villagers' looks and stares. Strangely enough, they did not bother him like they used to. There was this insight that he never had before. Maybe it was the understanding that he was not their hate, but it was a beast that was sealed inside of him, the Nine Tails. Knowing nothing about the beast though, just knowing that it was a great catastrophe. But it gave him an understanding that he never had before. He wasn't sure why his eyes would not change back. They did not cost him chakra, so he did not let it bother him. Upon getting there, Sasuke and Sakura arrived. And they waited and waited and waited. Kakashi finally arrived, leading Sakura to shout at him. Why the hell did he take so long? Oh, a black cat crossed my path, so I had to take the long way around. The group was not pleased by that. Even Naruto was getting a bit miffed by this quirk that he possessed of showing up late. For some reason though, it felt so familiar, despite never having to experience this before, which was rather odd. As the man was talking, Naruto was listening, but his mind was working at a rate that he's never been able to move at before. He was hearing the man, yet he was thinking about what he did when Mizuki threw that Fuma Shuriken. He hasn't been able to replicate that since. He was also thinking why couldn't he answer the question, what did he desire for the future? Was his goal of being Hokage unobtainable? Was he just kidding himself, believing that he could actually achieve it? Why were these questions plaguing him? He was never so thoughtful about these questions before, but now, it wasn't that he lost faith or lost his hope, but it seemed more questionable to think about these things and question his whole identity as a whole. The man told them that they needed to get the bells away from him. Naruto did not rush head on. He instead took to the trees with the others. Kakashi Hatake's gaze was focused on Naruto. It seems the Hokage was right, he said. The Hokage had told him to keep a good eye on Naruto. Kakashi had seen the boy more than once before, and noticed that, ever since his eyes changed, his personality seemed to have changed with it as well. Giving the boy a record and a detailed description on him, the child was supposed to charge directly at him to fight, but instead he just followed the others. He headed to the bushes. The one to actually attack first was Sasuke Uchiha after a good couple of minutes, after plotting out what he needed to do. Kakashi estimated that he was good for a genin. Wasn't as strong as they were back in the days, because those times were more ruthless and difficult, but still, his strength was truly impressive, and his skills as well. However, Sasuke intended to show this man what the Uchiha name was capable of. He fled through hand sign before releasing a giant fireball. In the trees, Naruto's eyes picked up on the technique, and that is when something truly phenomenal took place. Naruto Naizugan saw the technique. It saw the chakra, the manipulation of the chakra, and it formed seals out of them. Naruto saw them with his eyes, somehow understanding them down to the very stroke of the seals. It was truly fascinating and eye-opening. Naruto reached out. as a seal fell directly into his palm. It wasn't actually there. It was just a manifestation of his chakra coursing through his eyes. The chakra wrapped around his fingers. As Naruto looked at it amazed, the seal imprint was directly into his head. Naruto wrote the seal in the center of his palm. He actually winked slightly as the chakra burned the seal into his palm. He didn't know what he was even doing, but he simply went along with what felt natural. Once it was finished, it glowed. In that very moment, the seal vanished. As Naruto felt something off, reaching up, Naruto looked at a kunai that he pulled from his pouch. His eyes had returned back to normal. The seal that he just carved into his hand was now gone. His Nizugan had finally deactivated. What caused the activation in the first place? Naruto thought to himself. Closing his eyes and focusing, he felt that pull. As he simply went with it, his eyes activated once again. As Naruto saw the pattern, Naruto was confused. The seal that he just wrote on his arm was gone, but it was still there, imprinted into his chakra system, into his code. Could it be? He jumped down. The picture-perfect seal hand signs were photocopied into his very soul and DNA. As his hands went along with it, he knew the hand technique inside out just from seeing it once. Maybe it was because the technique wasn't that complex. Once he was finished, Naruto felt the buildup of chakra. He then released it. A fireball, not as large as the one Sasuke produced, escaped from his mouth, burning the tree in front of him. Naruto stood there amazed, stepping towards the flames and waving his hand over it to see if it was truly burning. It was hot. How in the world did he do that, he thought to himself. Confused he was, not quite understanding. However, he heard a scream. Their sensei was going after them one by one. Naruto came out of his hiding spot to see the man, leaned up against a tree reading his book. The bell was on the ground, waiting, open. A smirk came across Naruto's face. Did the man really take him for that of an idiot? There was no way that he would simply forgot the bells right there. It was obviously a trick. Naruto's eyes swept over the entire place until he saw the brush, the upturned brush. As he followed, as he saw the tiny rope edges, there was a rope buried there. If he was to step on that path, he would be captured. But he wasn't about to fall for that. Using the said kunai that he had, Naruto threw it. As it left his hand, Naruto noticed that his aim was nowhere perfect. He really needed to work on that some more. He realized that he had a technique that could help him a lot. The multi-shadow clone technique. After all, he could be training with 100 others, just like himself, to help improve his skills. That is when you remember what he read in the scroll. However, that was for a later date. Right now, Naruto kunai triggered the trap as Kakashi looked rather impressed. Bursting out of the foliage, Naruto attacked him head on. However, Naruto was disappointed in his own fighting style, realizing how mediocre it was. He brought his hand together and decided to use numbers to overwhelm him. But Kakashi was far better than Mizuki and eliminated all of the clones. The battle dragged on until the time was up. All of them was rounded up, as Sakura was the one that was tied to the tree. Her not proving to be an essential in this. After all, she was the one that got knocked out the easiest, while Naruto and Sasuke actually put up a fight. I'll give you guys another chance after lunchtime, but you being the one to come the least, to being helpful on this team. You won't have any lunch, Sakura, he said. The girl seemed really sad about that and hungry as well, as she hadn't eaten the night before because she was on a diet, trying to look better for Sasuke. Kakashi warned them not to feed her, as the both of them sat down there eating. Her stomach grumbled. She looked rather embarrassed, like she wanted to die, as she did not face either of them. Naruto then paused as he handed her his lunch. She was confused. What are you doing?" she said. "You heard what he said." "I did. But he said you were the least beneficial on this test. That means something else is going on that we're not seeing right here. I believe that this test is some sort of teamwork thing. I mean, think about it. What is the main lesson that Iruka always try to drill into our heads? Help your comrades. Will of fire and all of that. Don't you think that this could be a trick for us to work together? I mean, he told us not to eat like there was something going to be wrong with us. But he only did so that we would be hungry. To test our resolve and see if we would actually do anything about it." The two believed that Naruto's statement was truthful, but it was coming from Naruto. Why the hell did he sound and acted so different? Sasuke realized that he wasn't strong enough to take a Jonin by himself, and if this helped them pass, fine, he said, as he placed the chopstick out. Sakura was delighted as Naruto's sweat dropped when she ate off Sasuke's chopstick. It was an indirect kiss in her mind. As Naruto held one towards her, she looked towards it before taking it as well. As they were feeding her, Kakashi pulled up towards them, like death itself. However, "You all pass," he said, a smile greasing his features. He then went on to explain the true reason behind the test. I smiled towards Naruto for figuring it out. It seems that he was listening. Later that day, Naruto went to the Hokage and informed him of what happened. Hiruzen pulled out a scroll and had Naruto jot down everything that he's done so far, as he stored it for future use to find out the true mechanics behind this bloodline. So far, it seems like it allowed the wielder to copy a technique. However, that was just the tip of the iceberg. Hiruzen knew that most bloodlines started out weak and developed stronger over time. So he wanted to see just how far this one would come. And he was correct, because that was just the tip of the iceberg. The very, very tip. Time skip. Team 7 hadn't really been getting along that well. It's been a month and 3 weeks since they became a team. However, they weren't acting like a team. Sakura mainly focused on gaining Sasuke's attention. Sasuke was focused on training. Naruto was focused on his own self-growth, not opening or blending with any of them at all. If not asked directly, sometimes he just doesn't speak. He seemed to get lost in his thoughts on countless occasions. And whenever he failed to achieve something that he was working on, he tended to get upset, and sometimes his rage was a bit overwhelming. It reminded Kakashi so much of Kushina, and other moments Naruto was so calm that you wouldn't even notice that he was there if you weren't paying attention. Kakashi figured that a mission outside would actually bring them together, a moment for them to see each other as true teammates and not just space fillers. So here they were, heading towards the land of Wave. Kazuna, the bridge builder that they were protecting, made an insulting comment about each of them not being able to protect him, as neither of them came at each other's defense. None of them really reacted to it. Well, they perhaps did inside, but they kept a level head and calm. Kakashi wanted to see them moving and working as a team, even if that meant getting a bit miffed or upset about someone insulting their teammates. While he knew that Naruto possessed a hefty, great control over his personal reactions, he had that Uzumaki temper that Kushina had if pushed to a certain point. He'd seen it during their training or whenever Naruto messed up. However, he noticed the additional bruising and the marks on Naruto's arms. It seems like he's been training personally by himself. And he was right. Naruto learned something rather phenomenal. It was the Shadow Clone Jutsu. Yes, the information that he read, now being so calm and level-headed, it stuck with him. The clones could relay him the memories of what he learned. Therefore, he could expand his training. Now being a genin, Naruto was able to access a more developed part of the library. He's brought over a dozen scrolls home, and there was many things that he was working on. His bloodline was proven to be more phenomenal than he could have ever imagined. One of the aspects of his bloodline was he was able to mimic a technique. Yes, that was it. Upon seeing a technique done in front of him, he was able to break it down in a sealing formula. He then applied that seal to his body by using his very chakra to burn it into his skin. The burn did not last, or did it stay? It imprinted on his very chakra. It's been over a month now, and yet he still remembered the exact details of how to perform the fireball jutsu. The more he practiced with said technique, the more stronger they became, even vastly stronger than what the original did. It was truly phenomenal. Now looking at himself, Naruto could see the great weaknesses that his body possessed. His mind seemed to be just so open now, as he found several different fighting styles that he was trying to blend together. However, it was extremely hard. But his mind felt so stable and fresh now. Not to mention with using 1,000 or 500 clones at his disposal. Things were reaching heights that they should have reached in a couple of years, but in months. It was immediately cutting down the time for his training, and Naruto was loving every moment of it. However, focusing on this, he hadn't had much social life, something that he realized that he was extremely lacking. Ever since his eyes awakened, he became so outgoing and different. Everything about him seemed like a whole different person completely, and he had to say, he wasn't hating it. As they were making their way, Sakura was conversing with a client about his home. Naruto noticed a puddle up ahead. He gazed up towards the heavens. The sun was extremely hot. They've been walking for hours now. Rain had not fallen. So why was that puddle there? Lessons that he learned in the past seemed to be returning back to him. His mind being clear. Condensation. Evaporation. The puddle was supposed to be gone by now by this intense heat, returning back to the steam that left in the heavens. Why was it still there? Kakashi gazed over towards Naruto as he noticed that he was the only one that noticed what was going on. It was his time to shine, he thought. The copy ninja was ripped asunder by the demon brothers, Miyaizu and Gozu. Naruto thought that his first time facing true danger would lead to him freezing up, but he realized that this wasn't his first time. He thought he was going to die when he came across Mizuki. As Naruto understood that feeling now, looking at the demon brother running his way. However, Sasuke interjected and blocked them by stopping their chain. The demon brother turned and went towards him after dislodging their weapon. As Naruto felt it, his eyes activating. It was like pattern, like steps in front of him. Naruto teleported right in front of Miyaizu, stopping the man in his tracks. Naruto looked behind him and teleported behind him as well, as he could feel the chakra reserve dip. Not by much, but still. He understood what was going on now. His eyes were allowing him to teleport from one place to another. Strange. Naruto ducked, dodging the swipe that came at him. He felt it despite not actually seeing it. Everything felt so different. His eyes seemed to have evolved over the month of constant use. He felt this tingle like a vibration surrounding him. Like his senses were on high alert. He felt the hand movement before it even turned. Naruto summoned a clone. The clone swing. However, the demon brother ducked, only to duck right into a fist from another clone that snapped his head to the sky. Naruto stepped on the clone back and jumped. He twisted mid-air before bringing his heel down. Boom! He crashed it into the demon brother's face. His head slammed into the ground hard, knocking him out cold. Kakashi Hatake stood there with the other demon brother after realizing that. Sasuke went for defensive first by jumping in front of Sakura, who jumped in front of the client. He wanted to see what Naruto was capable of, and, well, he was pleasantly surprised as Naruto stepped on the back of the demon brother and looked down towards him. Once again, that instinct to kill rose. But this time though, Naruto fought it off, realizing that they could use him for valuable information. Kakashi told Naruto that he was impressed. However, this led to another round of questions that were all pointed towards Tazuna. It ended up with them heading towards the land of Wave, now knowing that they were tricked, but they still decided to help, as Kakashi saw the team actually corresponding with one another about the recent attack. It started with Sakura asking Naruto how in the world did he did that. He wasn't even looking and he dodged. Kakashi was more than fast enough to stop the demon brother from hurting Naruto, but he waited to see, just in case he was going to stop him, but Naruto pleasantly surprised him and he was proud. Kakashi gazed towards the Uchiha, who seemed to not be pleased because he didn't do much during that battle. Kakashi gave him some well-needed confidence boosts. He was the one that stopped them from using their chain technique again. Even Naruto said that his shuriken and kunai throwing was impressive. Sasuke grabbed onto that as it boasts his ego. Kakashi was liking how this was getting along, as he needed something more to bring the team as a team, for them to actually see each other as teammates. They headed there with a grateful Tazuna that they were taking his mission. Time skip. Kakashi wanted to sit down with Naruto and talk about his teleportation as he saw with his own eyes, but this was not the place for now. They were going to continue on. As Naruto was thinking to himself as he stood on the boat, his training seemed to be paying off, but he does need to be stronger. Much more stronger, because those guys were nothing. Kakashi took the other one out with a simple hand. Sakura had told him what he missed while his back was turned. As they walked through the foliage, they arrived to a rather dense mist scene when they heard noises, but it turns out to be a rabbit, which led to a very deadly confrontation. Zabuza Momochi arrived, intended to decapitate all of them but failed. A battle between him and Kakashi took place. The man teleported right into the center of the group. Raw speed, but to Naruto it seemed like teleportation to all of them, as Naruto realized that he was nowhere close to the level of a Jonin. And it was being shown right here and now, starting from the bloodlust and then the speed that this man possessed. It was phenomenal. Naruto teleported behind Zabuza, shocking Zabuza, as Naruto realized that if his speed would not work, surprise would. Naruto brought the kunai that he had in his hand down towards Zabuza's back. However, Zabuza spun, showing how much faster he was, and clashed. Naruto was not strong enough to bypass his strength. However, Kakashi was there, delivering a fatal blow, which turned him into water. Kakashi was then violently kicked onto the water, where he was captured in a water dome. The real Zabuza was hiding all along, now smirking rather happily. Zabuza created a water clone as Naruto's eyes saw the ceiling pattern. Immediately, writing it into his hand with his chakra, Naruto watched as it fizzled away. Kakashi told them to run to get out of here. The clone could not go farther than the original. However, Team 7 wasn't about to run. As Naruto looked towards Sasuke, he had an idea. Sakura threw down 2 smoke bombs, covering the area. Dashing out of the smoke was 5 Naruto clones. As they attacked, the water clone that sliced through 2 of them. However, the other 3 jumped. One of them grabbed his arm, sacrificing himself, as a shuriken ripped through the both of them. A massive Fuma shuriken. It went straight towards the original. However, he jumped over it, only for it to reveal that it was actually Naruto, forcing him to jump away. As Naruto launched 2 kunais towards him, his aim had drastically increased. Kakashi was now free, as all hell broke loose. One after another, Naruto saw many techniques thrown, 3 of them being water style. Very powerful one, the 3 most powerfulest. As Naruto's eyes copied every single one of them, seeing the chakra, seeing the Fuinjutsu symbols, he engraved it into his own skin. As they copied into his very chakra, the techniques coming to mind. Senbons were thrown as Zabuza was taken out by a hunter ninja, which led the group to return to the house. Time skip. They were standing outside for training. Kakashi revealed to them that Zabuza was alive, so their training has to increase. The tree walking exercise. That is when Naruto found out something phenomenal. Sakura. She bested all of them because of her excellent control over her low chakra. However, Naruto noticed something that he didn't notice before about his eyes. Not only were they able to mimic the techniques, but it was a very definition of chakra that was used. Kakashi was astonished to hear that, because if Naruto was exactly saying what he was thinking, as Naruto did, he performed the tree walking exercise after seeing Sakura did it once, using the exact amount of chakra. Even while his eyes were deactivated, it was still the exact amount. Kakashi was phenomenally shocked. Given the amount of chakra that Naruto possessed, his eyes calibrated the exact amount that would be needed to fit after synchronizing the amount of chakra that Sakura used for the perfect essence of walking on the tree. At first he thought that Naruto's technique was similar to the Sharingan, but this was a whole nother level of chakra understanding and ability copying. It was a whole nother level, and Naruto did not know why, but he felt that he has yet to see the full depths of his bloodline, and he was correct about that. Time skip. Naruto spent the entire day trying to understand the reach of his teleportation, yes. He tried to understand the depths of it. However, he realized that he had a limit. Maybe his body had not grown to the level that he feels. However, he noticed something strange. Whenever he teleported, there was this release of chakra in the vicinity. As Naruto felt that was the main source of his teleportation, he wondered. Naruto walked away from the spot that he just teleported at. Without looking at it, Naruto closed his eyes and tried to find that source. It was hard, much harder than the natural teleportation, which was a bit hard on itself, but the moment he found it, Naruto fell to the ground, taking very deep breaths as he felt so exhausted. He might have messed up. He felt so tired. However, he did it. He somehow teleported because of the link that his chakra had shared when it released. He was able to link himself to his own chakra. However, doing so exhausted him extremely so, because he might have not done it correctly, and it ended up expanding and expelling a large amount of his chakra that thoroughly exhausted him as he lay there on the ground. He ended up falling asleep. There was a bit of an incident with Tsunami's son, telling them that they were all going to die. For some reason, Naruto got insanely angry at him being a coward, and he called the child out on being one. So everyone think that he was just out training, so they knew that he would be fine, as Naruto decided to rest his head. Kakashi did venture out to check up on the boy, as he saw how the area looked, knowing that Naruto has been putting in the works. Knowing that the child would be fine, Kakashi simply allowed him to do what he was doing. When Naruto woke up the next morning, he was greeted by a beautiful face. He met someone, a girl known as Haku. She asked him about his precious person. There were many precious people within his life. The ramen family, Gigi. His teammates, yes, they were precious to him. His sensei. However, the way she said precious person made him believe that it was someone that you truly and deeply cared about. He supposed he's never truly had something like that ever. Haku told him though, that is what makes someone strong. To fight for someone that they knew will always want to see their face. Naruto understood her on so many levels, it was crazy. With his developing mind and his new understanding. However, at the end of it, Haku told him that she was a boy. Not a she, but a he. Now that was a bit embarrassing for Naruto. He looked extremely pretty. Even prettier than Sakura. As Naruto thought about it, he once had a crush on Sakura. No, not once, but recently. Before he awakened these eyes, but lately, he has not felt those feelings at all. They just went away. Huh, that was strange. When the day finally showed up, Iniera proved that he wasn't a coward by running to his own death to protect his mother, as a blade swung down to decapitate him. However, said blade was stopped by a water prison. The two thugs' eyes went wide, as Naruto was holding Tsunami in one hand. As she'd been knocked out by one of the thugs, Naruto hand Tsunami down to her son, Iniera holding his mother as best as he could, as she went to the ground. The two thugs were unable to breathe. Not having the dexterity of good chakra control like Kakashi to hold their breath as well, they start to turn blue, as Naruto watched as they ran out of oxygen. The moment they passed out, he released them before tying them up, making sure that they would not escape. As he told Iniera that he was gonna go to the bridge to take his mother and get somewhere safe. Before he went though, Iniera told him to kick Gato's ass, as the boy had regained his confidence, his hope. As Naruto said something that he hadn't said in a while, believe it. With that, he made his way. Sasuke was fighting for his life, as needles were coming from all over, impaling him. Damn it, it wasn't looking so good for him. That was until he heard water style, giant vortex. A massive powerful stream obliterated 6 of the mirrors, as 10 Naruto entered inside and started to go through hand sign as well. Fire style, fireball jutsu. They created a massive inferno that one of the clones used as a distraction to get Sasuke out of there. Naruto realizing that if he entered, he would also be trapped. Upon arriving at the bridge, Sakura told him what happened. Sasuke was not looking so good, exhausted and weak, and covered in needles. At least you didn't enter like some dope, Sasuke said. Right back at you. I mean, look at you, said Naruto. You're like a porcupine. Sasuke grumbled slightly, but he was in too much pain at the moment. But Naruto did notice his eyes that were different. However, Sasuke didn't have time to gloat, which was concerning. The mirrors shrunk away. The problem was, the mirrors was a big drain on Haku's chakra reserves. But no more. Fine. I will do this the old-fashioned way, Haku said, blurring through one-handed seals. Naruto watched it rather carefully. Water release. 1,000 needles of death. He stomped on the bridge, as Naruto clones were eradicated by the Senbons. raining down towards them. Haku sent several Senbons towards them as well, but Naruto used the numbers by creating more clones that jumped in the way to take the attack. Naruto carefully watched from the side Haku's fighting style. He created more clones that went in. Haku was relentless and fast, mowing them down one after another with quick and precise blows to their vital spots as they poofed away. Haku's speed was another thing entirely. Racing through the entire volley of clones, he headed straight for the original and swung, but Naruto stepped back before teleporting and swung. Haku managed to turn just in time to unblock his fist, but Naruto was gone and slammed his fist into the left side of Haku's mask. Haku staggered back. Naruto has been learning how to move instantly the moment after he teleported. He did so to allow the ninja to believe that he could not, letting his guard down. Naruto dashed forward and did it once again, to the right, to the left. Each time he moved, he left his chakra there. Naruto created 5 clones as a distraction as they attacked. That is when Naruto teleported after Haku took down the second clone. His fist crashed into Haku's stomach. Naruto teleported behind him, delivering a brutal kick. The 2 clones that remained jumped forward and slammed their heel across the mass, throwing Haku back as Naruto grabbed Haku by wrapping his arms around him and lifting him, before slamming his head down on the bridge. The final 2 clones jumping into the sky as they came down, bringing their legs with an extreme amount of force. However, Haku reacted and sucked the moisture from the wet, soaking air, pulling it towards him and releasing needles that obliterated them before sending one right into Naruto's thigh, rolling off of him as he delivered a swift kick to his feet. As Naruto was coming down, he slammed his hand into Naruto's stomach, slamming him on the bridge. That is when Haku's hand got soaked. A water clone? Water style. Great. Vortex! Naruto said on both sides. Haku was surprised as he was trapped in the center. The 2 techniques collided, throwing him all over, slamming him with an insane amount of pressure. The same technique that took Zabuza out, but it was twice as strong with both Narutos doing it. Haku's body crumbled on the bridge once it was done, his mass breaking apart by the force. As he rose to his feet, Naruto came rushing in, his fist clenched to deliver the final blow. However, Naruto stopped. The mask completely crumbled away, showing Haku for who he really was. Haku collapsed down to his knees. He had several broken bones. His body was exhausted, weak, and in agony right now, as he couldn't really put up a fight anymore. It's you. All this time it has been you, said Naruto. That precious person that you were talking about. That was Zabuza? Yes. He is my precious person. Why would you work for someone like that? You're so kind and sweet. He gave me everything, Haku said, looking rather happy. I had nothing, and he gave me everything when I thought there was no hope. I don't understand, said Naruto. Haku regaled Naruto with his story. Naruto thought his life was bad, but having to witness your own father kill your mother in front of your eyes because of your mistake of using your bloodline had put a scar on Haku's very soul. Naruto felt extremely bad. As Haku told his story, how his life ended up this way, and why he pledged his life to Zabuza, and why he was willing to die for him. As Naruto understood that a bond like that could not be easily broken. Despite them being enemies, Naruto understood Haku's motivation. However, he couldn't afford for Haku to kill the bridge builder. He couldn't afford for him to continue on with his mission. But he didn't feel like he wanted to kill Haku. But that option was taken away from him. Haku realized it was still something a broken tool could do. Running in, Naruto tried to stop him, but he used the mirror. He headed straight over and received a Shidori to the chest, obliterating him. Naruto watched the gruesome scene in front of him. However, the more shocking part was that Zabuza was willing to cut through Haku. Naruto couldn't understand as the body hit the ground and rolled when Kakashi pulled his hand out. Kakashi saw the true kind of monster the man was, even willing to cut through his own. Zabuza was not in the right state of mind after seeing Haku's death as well. Kakashi started to beat the living crap out of him, and he made it look so effortless, knocking him around like he was absolutely nothing and no one. However, it was interrupted when the antithesis to all of this arrived. Gato. Naruto's gaze was firmly set. Yes, it was firmly set on Haku, dead corpse on the bridge. Gato, having his arm broken by Haku earlier, decided to mock the corpse. Naruto was furious. How can you just stand there and allow him to do that? As Naruto here started to rise, just slightly, just to show the contested anger that was coursing through his veins. You know nothing, brat, Zabuza said. Haku meant nothing to me. He meant nothing to you? When he vowed to you his entire life? Naruto's words were like stabs, going directly into Zabuza's heart. One after another, hitting him left from right, again and again and again. An overwhelming sensation of pain. It melted the cold, wicked heart of the man. His heart crumbled like ice. Naruto saw the water on the ground. Tears. You know, kid, your words cut deeper than any blade I've ever seen before. You're right, Zabuza said. If he was going to leave this world either way, he was going to leave it as the person that Haku would die for, not the person that would watch his corpse get mistreated. Hey kid, toss me a kunai. Naruto tossed the weapon up as he watched Zabuza engage, showing the true name of a demon. As Zabuza was fighting, Naruto saw something strange. A pattern appeared. This pattern was different than any of the other ones. It was a movement using his body, his whole body, as the use of his arms were not accessible right now. Something strange Naruto saw. He carved it into his skin. As this one felt different. Naruto's hands, his legs felt different. Could this be his fighting style? But wait, why didn't this happen for Kakashi? Naruto was confused about this one. Zabuza ended Gato by piercing him with a kunai in his mouth, knocking him off the bridge. Zabuza seemed like he was about to fall as Naruto teleported. He held on to him, trying something that he never tried before. He teleported with Zabuza, and it worked. He laid him right down beside Haku to say his final goodbyes. The thugs on the other hand started to murmur. They wanted to take the village. That is when Iniri and the others showed up, but they believed they could take them. Naruto was angry. Violently so. In that very moment, Naruto did something without thinking. He simply combined two of the techniques. It was a water prison technique along with the vortex technique as well. The water below them erupted up under Naruto's control, shocking everyone there. After erupting up, it encapsulated all of them, rising them. Naruto slammed his hand together, pumping out more chakra, as he was simply going along with it. That is when something truly phenomenal and scary happened. The water inside the dome where the thugs was The strength of the water drastically increased because of the vortex technique. Their bones crush. Their bodies twist and bend and snap. It was violent and bloody. The water became red, soaked with their blood. It was gruesome. Naruto was staggered at what he just did, as this wasn't anything that he expected to happen. But he was just so angry by these thugs still willing to harm this village, as he massacred the lot of them. This was actually his first time killing someone. The strange part about it was, he didn't feel bad. But guys, be and subscribe right here. If you enjoy C1C Part 2, comment down below and tell me, and I'll be posting it as soon as possible for you guys to enjoy. But I'm off for now, see you guys soon. Peace.